innovation has no borders, venture capital has no borders. So we had to get out of this thinking that I want something in my country.
Hi everyone, my name is Miguel Magalhães. I'm the head of content and partnerships at the Next Big Idea. And in this edition of WebSummit, we are conducting a series of interviews with investors and companies with the support of the EIF. And this time, I'm lucky enough to have with me the Chief Executive of EIF, Marjut. Marjut, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting. It's really exciting here.
So let's jump into the first question, which is one of the key topics once we discuss innovation in Europe is how can we become more attractive to companies that often have moved either to the US or to Asia because they feel that it's the right place to scale up their businesses or even to establish their operations. How do you feel that we've been doing as Europeans a better work in trying to keep these companies here and ensure that they have reasons enough to grow their companies and not move overseas?
Let's start with the positive side of this. I think Europe has done really well in developing and more mature venture capital markets in terms of seed and startup.
Yeah.
All over the European Union. We are still not there. The markets are very fragmented, so a lot of work needs to be done indeed. And now, finally, let's put it this way, our policymakers have understood that scaling up and growth of the companies, keeping them in the European Union, it is potentially an issue. And it is an issue indeed. We have not been able to provide the solutions, but we are on a good path there as well. Because in the European Investment Fund, last year we started a new program which is called European Tech Champions Initiative. And under that we have 3.85 billion euros to invest into so-called mega funds. And with mega funds, we mean funds which have an investment capacity of at least 1 billion euros and which can make investments of above 50 million each. You know, it can be 100, 150, 200, 250 million into a company, but who have the capacity to do so in all deep tech sectors. And this is an excellent start, but it's only a start.
Yeah.
We will need much more of that. And talking about growth and scaling up, we really need to get also the private sector involved because this is profitable business in the end. I mean, all of these companies should at some stage have exit opportunities either by corporate acquisition or, for example, by pre-IPO funds or even go and list, hopefully, in European Union stock exchanges. Then this is, of course, another point because there are too many stock exchanges with limited liquidity. So I think there's something where the EIF cannot be very active, but where the member states have to become active, together with the European Commission, with all the political leaders, to think about how to create a capital markets union where there are listing opportunities, really kind of better opportunities what we have as of today, with enough deep pockets of money, of liquidity by investors in those listed markets.
Yeah, and you are totally right because Europe doesn't have at all a talent problem. The money has been one of the issues. So when you are trying to scale up the capital and investment that can be done, what do you believe is the pitch that the EIF needs to do with its partners to make sure that, guys, this is something that we can tackle, this is something that it's like available to us to accomplish? What do you usually say to them?
Look, I tell first, innovation is not about national borders. Innovation is about European Union. When there's an entrepreneur who would like to, innovate, has a great idea, he does not do it because of Lisbon or because of Portugal. He does it because he has the idea to help the whole society, isn't it?
Yeah.
So innovation has no borders. Venture capital has no borders. So we had to get out of this thinking that I want something in my country. I want the companies in my country to get the investment where the venture capital fund is, or the private equity fund, or the debt fund, or the venture debt that is coming in. It doesn't matter where from Europe it comes. The main thing is it lets the companies grow.
Yeah.
And then when we talk about the exits, it's a bit the same. You know, there are big corporates in European Union. Potentially we have to really continue building these big corporates who have the acquisition power, and have the means then to acquire these companies. Because what is so specific in innovation, usually when you have a founder, this person does not create only one company. There's many other ideas. So there's a snowball effect which then starts, and at some stage very often these founders, they become business angels, they start investing themselves, they become partners or even the founders of venture capital funds. So it's a snowball effect that we can only accelerate, and we have to accelerate.
Yeah. You mentioned working with several countries, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about booming industries here in Europe, because when you go around this event, you talk about AI, you talk about energy, you talk about cybersecurity, you talk about fintech. How can EIF work with these countries while giving conditions for startups to prosper in these industries, but making sure that they respect or that they have an alignment in helping these industries to kind of become the key differentiators whenever Europe plays out as a market?
It's a great question because, this is many people think in the short term. So what do we have to do this year? Potentially next year, there's another priority. But unfortunately, innovation is not short-term issue.
Yeah.
Innovation is a long-term business. When we think, for example, about photonics, where it takes 5 years to get first revenues and then 8 years to become profitable and so on. This is a long-term, let's say, vision that we have to pursue. Now, of course, in European Union now, the strategic autonomy, the resilience, the preparedness, and Niinistö talks in his report about preparedness. This is now something that we have to have, let's say, stronger focus, while not forgetting the other sectors like life sciences, energy, clean tech, and all that. And that is it's tricky, but it can be done. It can be done if there's a will and really the way and I would say even the will. It's more stronger than anything else of all partners to work into that direction and support all these bright ideas. But then we shall not forget basic research.
Yeah.
Because without basic research, we have fantastic basic research. There we have to work on the technology transfer acceleration, that we get that research into commercial products. There in Europe, we have to also work a bit more with the universities, with the academia,
Yeah.
to make it incentivize the creation of companies and spin-offs.
Do you feel that one of the solutions would be to get companies that can support that transition closer to universities? I mean, there's been a topic around a lot around that, on how universities can have this symbiosis in which companies have a direct relationship with the market, and we did that research. How can you do pilots? How can you do spin-outs in an easier way, and with the support of a range of different ecosystems that you already have available across Europe and different countries, right?
It is certainly one way, but as long as our professors are incentivized by publications, by number of publications in topics, and then based on that the funding is coming in, we have wrong incentives. It's a very important incentive, but it's as important is the incentive to create companies and spin-offs.
Yeah.
So I think it's in addition to that, we need to focus on what we expect from our universities. But then we come to the discussion, academic discussion, what do we need from basic research? And if we do this type of incentivization, whether we are then doing the right thing. It's a fine balance that we have to find.
One of the key topics around all industries, of course, has been sustainability, and how can the European Union and the EIF, of course, be a champion on ensuring that while we want to be experts and we want to have a competitive advantage in all these important industries, we keep in mind that we need to do it in a right way without taking any steps for granted. So how do you feel that you have been working with all your partners to ensure that these steps are taken into consideration, that we do all we need to do in these industries, but while ensuring that we are not damaging the planet, or the right way to do things, if there's one right way to do things?
Sustainability is key component of our competitiveness, and Europe has done a lot of great work in all types of green and clean tech sectors on this one. And for example, together with Invest Europe, the venture capital association in European Union, we have developed a kind of a checklist that we are using, but that helps our venture capital funds in their, let's say, investment strategy setting up and in their investment decisions. And like that, we get feedback where, which type of climate, sustainability, environment, the investments are taking place. So we had to set a bit of targets, and we have, of course, our own objectives among all the policy objectives what we have. And we are in a very good way. I think we are really European Union in all countries. We are doing well. We do have one point, though, for all those startups who are working in new technologies. I think there it's not something that EIF can do, but public sector, that in procurement they consider also this type of new technologies. It's very complicated, I know, but we need a procurement legislation that allows for it, because it's the only way how we can then bring these fantastic products to the market.
Yeah. And when you're looking, and I think this is particularly important when you look in European, because we have really good ecosystem hubs for innovation. We have Berlin, we have Paris that has been growing a lot, but we need more, because if we are only reserved to those two, it's not enough for all the startups and all the innovation that we want to bring. How can EIF be a player in ensuring that the different hubs that are booming, we have Lisbon, in Spain, there are a lot of things happening.
Barcelona.
All countries are trying to build their own hubs and kind of support this greater ecosystem across Europe. How can EIF ensure that they kind of can work together to, instead of having two big ones, we can have 10, 20, that any startup can grow and establish their operations?
Now, I think for EIF, the only thing what we can do is investing.
Yeah.
So, but this type of networks, for example, for the European Innovation Council, I think is a great example of how these type of networks could be built. Or the EIT, for example, with EIT Health, or different areas where EIT is working. So potentially, I cannot now answer the question whether it is too fragmented, whether there should be more collaboration. But on the other hand, event like this, where you bring 70,000 stakeholders, 70,000 participants in one place.
Yeah.
This is how you build networks.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the best way how to do it. Now, our role is indeed not that big, but as long as we continue investing into these startups and into the deep tech companies that are then the, let's say, successful, can create the next one, are in this snowball effect, I think then we already have done a good job.
And more hubs will mean also less arguments for companies to leave Europe when they want to grow, because they will find resources, they will find consumers, informed consumers for their services in lots and more cities without looking, oh, I need another ecosystem because in Europe I only have two. I can grow in a range of countries. And we are in Portugal and we are in Lisbon, and just recently the EIF just announced its involvement in the new funds of three important Portuguese-led funds. How do you view that involvement and the impact that the EIF has been able to have, of course, in those funds, but in Portugal as an ecosystem, of course?
Look, a lot of good work has been done in the last years, together with PPF, Banco Português. Exactly, and with the government, and what I think what our role is to bring also other funds into the Portuguese ecosystem. And I think what is great when we look at these three funds, we have mandates like the Luxembourg Future Fund investing, we have NATO Innovation Fund investing, we have European Union investing, we have us investing, so the European Union through the EIF. And this is the firepower, the increase in the firepower in a local market, if I may say so, because this is not so local. I mean, all these three funds, they are investing globally. They are investing in European Union. What their focus is an investment strategy. So artificial intelligence, machine learning, quantum computing, whatever you can think about. All these fantastic deep tech sectors, so important, cybersecurity. And bringing all this firepower to Portugal, creating the funds in Portugal, investing abroad brings a lot of knowledge, experience, and I would say even talent to Portugal. So it's a win-win for everybody.
And it's very important because one of the trends that we've been seeing is that Portugal, over the last years, with the greater maturity that it has been, you have more and more VCs that are no longer just investing in Portugal, they are investing in other markets. And if that can happen, if some VC in Slovenia suddenly tries to or starts to invest as well in France, in Spain, in Portugal, that creates a great cycle of investment that different VCs are no longer just reserved to the market where they operate, at least in the less known markets, and they can exchange resources, practices, and
and we ensure success, long-term success, because moving around you learn, of course, but then you learn, you see what type of investors are out there, and you bring them with you.
Yeah. And if I can ask you a final question on some futurology, which is looking to 2025, because 2023 was a really hard year in terms of investment and kind of an adjustment of the market. 2024 brought a lot of good news for investment and for startups. How would you oversee the next 12 months in terms of what can happen, not only from the startup side, or company side, but really in terms of investment, and what do you see that will likely happen across that period?
Let's put it this way. For us, it is very important, and now that we have been working on this developing more mature seed and startup ecosystems, that we work on the scaling up and in particular on the exit side. And that is something where EIF will be focusing the next 12 months more forcefully, if I may say so. Because we have to keep these European Union companies within the European Union. It's only that way that they help us in our economic competitiveness and keep the economy growing. So that will be one of the key areas. And the other area is that we have done, many of us, many stakeholders, working on the private sector fundraising. And we have to really rethink how we can get the corporates, the pension funds or insurance companies to invest into venture capital, private equity and debt funds. Because we shall not forget that venture debt is also a key component of developing an innovation ecosystem. And there I must say, just a final word, that our parent company, European Investment Bank, is doing a great job there. They have a venture debt program, really targeting on innovative companies under the InvestEU program of the European Union. So that I think they have done so far over 300 financings in European Union already. So we need venture capital and we need venture debt.
Marjut, it was great having you here with me. Thank you very much.
Thanks to
It
you.
was lovely.